Hello, I'm Neil Quigley and welcome to the latest episode of my Blogcast. Hope you're good and you've had a nice couple of weeks. Mine have been pretty amazing. I went to see one of the Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band gigs at Wembley Stadium. I went to the first night on the Thursday. I have seen them 3 times before in the past, including last year at Hyde Park. Every time I've seen that band and that man in action, I have been totally blown away. So as you can imagine, I was quite looking forward to going to their latest concert. I spent around 3 years working at Wembley Stadium for the FA, doing tours around the place. So I know the stadium very, very well. My girlfriend and I had bought standing tickets at the rear of the pitch. I have been lucky enough when I was working at Wembley to play football on the actual Wembley pitch, which was like a boyhood dream coming true. My only slight regret is I didn't score a goal there. Otherwise, that would have been amazing, and it would have been the sort of thing that I would have told every single person I met. So maybe it's a good thing that didn't happen. I wanted to get there relatively early, so Linda and I headed first to Watford to get some pre-concert food. Being a celiac and having very strict gluten-free requirements, I wasn't necessarily sure that I would be able to get any food in the stadium, so I had an absolutely massive dinner at Pizza Express, which was great and set me up nicely for the rest of the day. Then we got the train into Wembley and went to a pub that I used to go to quite a lot when Tottenham Hotspur were playing at Wembley for a couple of seasons while the new stadium was being built. It's called The Arch, and it is on the exact location of where the old Greyhound pub used to be. The Arch is great. They've got a massive garden and they are very well rehearsed at having lots of people there for big events. So it's very slick. We got in there, got a drink and found the table. No problem whatsoever. There we met a couple of friends of mine who were also going to the gig and in the same area as us. So the idea was to meet up with them and basically go and see the concert with them, which we did. As we were walking up to the stadium about an hour or so before the boss was due on stage, before we got in, I spotted one of the merchandise stands, and I had previously thought, having looked online, that I might want to get myself a t-shirt to mark the occasion. Now, the ones I saw online were different to the ones they had actually at the venue. So I was quite taken with the latest official World Tour t-shirt, but there was a bit of a queue at the first stand I went to, so I was still undecided. Then we passed another merchandise stand a little bit closer to where we were actually going to enter the stadium. Again, bit of a queue, and I was still unsure whether I wanted the t-shirt or not. Then we got ourselves into the stadium and we're heading to try and find ourselves a nice spot to stand when inside the stadium itself, right in the area where we were going to be watching the show from, there was a merchandise stand. There was absolutely no queue. So before I knew it, I'd walked up there and bought myself the t-shirt I wanted. My girlfriend claims she knew I was going to buy that t-shirt as soon as I saw it. How she knew that, I don't know, because I wasn't convinced that I was actually going to do that myself. But I am the proud owner of a Bruce Springsteen t-shirt, and I've been wearing it almost constantly for the last couple of weeks. Now, if you're not familiar with Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, their concerts are always epic. They rarely have support bands because they just don't need them and there's simply not time for them. They will play forever and ever, and they always start very promptly. So we found ourselves a spot to watch it from. It was the first time I'd watched a music concert from the pitch at Wembley Stadium, and I was pleasantly surprised at how good the view was and that you could actually see the stage. The other thing with Springsteen shows is he does make sure there are huge video screen, so you can always see very clearly what is happening on stage wherever you are. And he's very good at interacting and playing to the audience, so you get to witness all of that. Dead on 7:15, which was the allocated start time. The band were all in position and Springsteen walks out, counts the band in, and away they go. They just seg almost straight in, song to song to song, and they've got such a back catalogue of amazing tunes. It's impossible for them to play them all every gig, so they do have a core of songs that they play on a particular tour, but they'll always mix it up with a few different ones as they go along. And the show is very well put together. There's tempo changes. There are lots of musical solos from the very talented instrumentalists in that band. They are all amazing. For fans of The Sopranos, Stevie Van Sant, who has been one of the boss's guitarists forever, they've known each other since they were very, very young. He is great as well and's got an amazing dress sense. The whole personality of the band comes through as they play. I love his drummer, Max Weinberg. I think he is absolutely amazing. He has to work so hard because there's a lot of bashing of those drums to be done during the gig. And my other favourite member of the E Street Band is Jake Clemens. His uncle, Clarence Clemens, was one of the original members of the E Street Band and very close to Springsteen. Sadly, he died quite a few years ago now, and Jake, who is also an amazing saxophone player, replaced him in the band and is marvellous. He is such a great musician. He's got a great look as well, and you can tell he really enjoys being part of things. Plus, it's nice that he kind of carries on the memory of his uncle by being in the band and also playing the instrument and the saxophone solos that he used to play. I absolutely love that. Although I have slowly taken steps to have a little bit of alcohol here and there after taking virtually 16 months off due to ongoing headache issues, I decided not to drink at the gig as I didn't want to feel bad or anything to happen that stopped me fully enjoying myself. So I was being very rock and roll on the water, which was fine, having an amazing time. The concert seemed to fly by. 3 hours and 15 minutes. That band were on stage. They played right up to curfew time. There is 2 encores. The first encore lasts about half an hour and, as you would imagine, features lots of the big songs, including on this particular occasion Born to Run and Dancing in the Dark. The whole of Wembley Stadium was singing Dancing in the Dark, and they put all the lights on as well so we could all see each other. It looked and sounded amazing. Then the E Street Band all go off and leave Bruce on the stage by himself to close the night with an acoustic version of See You in My Dreams, which was just beautiful. I absolutely do love Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. I could go and watch them for about 7 nights in a row. I'm just in awe. I always leave their concerts in an amazing mood, and I cannot wait to see them again. The second they're back in the UK, I will be on that ticket website getting myself some tickets. Fantastic night hanging with the boss. Linda very kindly spotted a play happening in Harpenden, which was not really her thing, but right up my street. So not only did she point it out to me, she also got us a couple of tickets to go along and see it. It's called The Last Laugh, and it's written and directed by Paul Hendy. It features Bob Goulding as Eric Morecambe, Simon Cartwright as Bob Monkhouse, and Damian Williams as Tommy Cooper. It features those 3 legendary comic icons chatting together backstage in a theatre dressing room, talking about life, death, comedy in general, and also doing many of their very famous and well-known gags. I actually saw the world premiere of it, which they aptly chose to do at the Eric Morecambe Centre in Harpenden, because Eric used to live there. And as you would expect, there is a massive painting of him in the foyer and a lovely write-up about the man himself. I thought the play was fantastic, very funny. I am big fans of all of those comedy icons, and the actors that were portraying them all were totally brilliant. The whole audience were laughing. The atmosphere was great. It's about an hour long straight through with no interval, as it's now currently up at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. It's there, I believe, for the entire month of August. If you are up there, I would recommend, if you do like classic comedy, you should definitely go and see it. There are some quite poignant and emotional moments in it, but ultimately it's just the chance to have a good old laugh at some classic gags. And as I said, the cast are so great. They do really make you feel like you are watching those original performers. It is really, really good. So do go and see it. Hopefully it does well at Edinburgh and gets to go on a UK tour. I had a fantastic night, very nostalgic, and because it was the premiere performance, they did a short Q&A with the audience afterwards, which was great. Nice to get some insight from the writer and director Paul Hendy and talk to the cast about their views on the people they were portraying and the play itself in general. There were some moments where things didn't exactly go 100% to plan. Bearing in mind, it was the very first performance of it, but they styled it out brilliantly. And anything that was maybe not quite as expected, they ad-libbed around it and made it very funny. So that was another fun night, seeing something new. Then the next day, which was the Saturday, my mate Jeff was coming down from Liverpool to go to the Saturday Bruce Springsteen concert at Wembley Stadium. He had never seen them before. I have been banging on to him for years about going to see Bruce and the E Street Band, telling him, you've got to do it. The gig is amazing. You will love it. He is, as you would imagine from a man from Liverpool, a massive Beatles fan. He's seen Paul McCartney loads of times in big arena gigs and at a private event at the Cavern in Liverpool. I've seen Paul McCartney and his band. They're very good. He also likes Paul Weller, the Stereophonics, Bob Dylan, the Rolling Stones, so he knows good live acts, but I really hoped he would enjoy Springsteen for the first time. I met up with him with Linda in the afternoon over in Kentish Town originally because he likes that area of London. I was delighted in the pub we went into there to find they had Freedom on draft. That has been my drink of choice for most of the last year. It is a gluten-free, non-alcoholic beer. To find it in a pub is extremely unusual. To find it on draft is the first time that has ever happened to me. So I really enjoyed having 2 pints of that in their beer garden. Jeff is a huge fan of Camden. So after we'd had the drinks at Kentish Town, to Camden we strolled. We had a bit of a walk round and we let him choose the bar. Went and had a couple of drinks in one of the bars there. And then we walked back to the tube station. We sent him and his fiancée off to Wembley to see the gig. And Linda and I went back into central London, initially to have a drink and then plan our next move. I did tell Jeff to keep me updated, let me know what songs he was playing, and more importantly, if he was enjoying himself, which he did. I was getting updates from him as we were sitting again in the sunshine having a drink. We still had to decide what we were going to do that evening. We did look at maybe getting some last minute tickets to a theatre show in London, but we couldn't find anything we necessarily wanted to see or any really good last minute deals. So then we decided we'd go and get some dinner. Of course, with me being a celiac and gluten-free, that can sometimes limit our options. She very kindly let me decide, and I was umming and ahhing, but there's been a place on my radar for a while which is celiac accredited, so that means I can eat there safely. They've signed off on certain practices and say they can guarantee to get gluten-free food with no contamination for celiacs, and that is the Hard Rock Cafe. So we booked a table last minute at the Hard Rock Cafe in Piccadilly and headed over there for our reservation. First time I'd been into that one. I've been in Hard Rocks before in America and in Rome, but first time I'd been to any of the London ones. It is quite spectacular when you walk in and walk down the stairs to the dining area as they show you to your table. They have got quite a bit of memorabilia, of course, up on the walls, because that is kind of their thing. We had booked a table for two, and it just so happened our table was right next to a pair of John Lennon glasses that were in a display case right by where I was sitting. So obviously straight away I had to send a picture to my mate Jeff, the Beatles fan who was at Springsteen, to let you know what we were sat by. Predictably, I had a burger and fries, because that's what you should have if you're in a Hard Rock Cafe, I think. It was all nice. The food was great and absolutely no problem. They did look after me as you'd expect and as I'd hoped, so no gluten issues there. The only thing was the burger and also the side I ordered, which was the buffalo chicken wings, was quite a lot of food, as it turned out in the end. Therefore, and this always disappoints me when this happens, I was so full from that food I could not squeeze in a dessert, which was a little bit disappointing. However, it did mean Linda and I could get back to the train station and get a train home at a reasonable time at that beautiful sweet spot in the evening where it's not too early, but it's not too late, so the train isn't too busy and it isn't too full of people who may or may have not had, shall we say, a couple of shandies. So we had a decent train journey home and managed to get some seats, which is not always the case when you're heading home from London sometimes, of course. I did get full reports from Jeff all the way through the concert, changes to the set list, some videos of some of the songs, which I was absolutely loving. Then I did check right at the end that he enjoyed himself. He said he had a brilliant time. He also said that at the end of the gig, Bruce said he'll be back next year, and he also wants to go and see next year's concert when he is back. So I think that's a good sign. I think I was right to tell him to go and see Springsteen, and I know he definitely enjoyed himself. So my work there was done. Believe it or not, I am still talking about the same weekend, because the next day we then went to the St Albans Comedy Festival, which we've been to previously a couple of times, but not for a couple of years. We didn't manage to get along there last year. They have a week's worth of comedy in one of the parks in St Albans. The lineup is always good. They call it the Comedy Garden. So we booked the tickets for that probably about a month in advance. At that point, Joe Brand was due to be the headline act, but she unfortunately had to pull out through illness, but the lineup was still great. We got there nice and early. In fact, we were one of the first people to get in when the gates opened. It was a glorious sunny afternoon, so we found ourselves a table in the sunshine. I was driving, so again on the soft drinks. So Linda had a few glasses of wine. I had some apple juice, and we got talking to a very nice couple next to us who had been to a couple of the gigs already. Previously, when we'd been, it had been just a stage outside with all the seats in the open. This time they had got a tent, which was great last year when the weather was awful and rained. It made perfect sense. This year, it was just like one massive sauna. It was so hot inside that tent, and it takes quite a while for people to filter in and filter out of it, but we got our seats in time for the compere Ian Smith to come out and do his warm-up on the crowd, which was great. He has recently just done a Radio 4 show, which is very good as well and worth watching out for. He was fantastic all the way through the gig. The first act on was somebody I really like, who I have seen a fair few times over the years, and she's always great. Susie Ruffle, she was as energetic and as funny as ever, so that was good. Then it was time for a bit of a break. So time to traipse out of the tent. There's lots of food stalls there, and before we went in, I spotted one which did loaded fries and said they were safe for celiacs. So I thought, I've got to have some food there, because that's quite a rare thing when you go to these events, to actually see one of these food vendors who actually say, yes, we can definitely safely serve celiacs. I went and ordered my loaded fries and obviously had a chat to the woman who was running the stall. It turned out she was celiac as well. When I found that out, I felt even safer, and I thoroughly enjoyed the chips and the chili beef that I had on top. It was really, really nice. It was quite a decent portion, and the interval was quite short, so I didn't have time to eat it all before heading back into the tent for Ian Smith to come back out and do the next bit of his comparing. The next act was actually someone I've not seen before. It was Chantal Nash, and she was great. She's definitely someone worth watching out for. She was very funny. I suspect we will see a bit more of her over the next 2 or 3 years. I thought she was that good. Then, if you're a fan of plebs, you'll know this man. Tom Rosenthal was on to do his set. First time I'd seen him live. Very good. Very enjoyable, so that was great. Then it was time for yet another interval. I was still full from my loaded chips from the previous break, so did just grab a quick drink this time, and then it was back in to see our headline act, who was of course replacing Joe Brand, who couldn't be there, and it was Ardal O'Hanlon, who I'd not seen before. I was a fan of Father Ted. He of course played Father Dougal in that and was brilliant. First time I'd seen him do his stand-up, as I said, and he was really funny, as you'd expect for a man with his experience and comedy skills. Very good, very funny, very natural, and really enjoyed that. So that was another fantastic afternoon enjoying live comedy in a very sunny park in a hot tent in Hertfordshire. And that did bring to a close what was quite a busy weekend. Last Saturday, we went up to Warrington for my mate's dad's 70th birthday party. Now, through my friends, I've known their parents for over 20 years now. They're both great people, very welcoming, very friendly, so I knew it was going to be a good night. They work at a pub which also has a restaurant and some rooms attached, and they'd managed to rent out the entire place for the night and book all the rooms as well. So we were going there to stay the night, and the party was in the same place. So I was very much looking forward to that. Linda drove us up there on the Saturday morning. We got there around about 1:30 in the afternoon, parked up, went in. It was a nice sunny day once again, so grabbed ourselves some drinks and just sat in the garden. Then we decided to have some food, having looked at the menu. There appeared to be one dish on there, steak and chips, which was gluten-free, so I thought, great, I'll have that. But as ever, before I order anything, even if it says gluten-free on the menu, I need to check several things like how is it cooked? Is there any risk of cross-contamination? So when the manager who was serving us came over, I just explained what I wanted, said that was gluten-free and celiac, and he basically said, you can have pretty much anything on the menu. I can make that gluten-free for you. Obviously, I then had to ask the question, is anything that's gluten-free cooked in the same oil pan, same place as anything that has gluten in? He confirmed that no, there was a separate fryer for anything that was gluten-free. So therefore, straight away, without hesitation, because this is something I don't get very often, I ordered the gluten-free fish and chips. Linda had only ordered a salad, but she also saw some onion rings on there. So she ordered some onion rings. As she ordered them, the manager very kindly said, well, would you like me to make those gluten-free so then you can share them? Now, I left it up to her. She said yes. So the onion rings were also open to me as well, which was brilliant. The fish and chips arrived and the portion was absolutely huge. And then these onion rings turn up and they are massive as well. So we made our way through our meals. They were great. Very, very filling. I was extremely full by the end of it. Once again, so full that I could not manage pudding, which is becoming a bit of a worrying trend for a man who likes the sweet stuff, particularly at the end of meals. The timing worked out brilliantly in that more or less as soon as we finished and paid for our meal, our friends and their parents turned up. So we had a nice catch up with them at that point. Then we helped them get ready for the party. My friend, who's very, very handy and is an engineer and also owns a 3D printer, had made the table decorations out of plastic from his 3D printer. They were amazing. And he'd even fitted each one with those little miniature lights that you get to put in bottles. They looked great. So we set the whole room up. My mate's wife had made 150 little cupcakes and special boxes for every person who came to the party to take away as a gift. Once we got everything set up, we checked into our rooms, which were on site and which were all booked for us in advance. So we had somewhere to stay on the premises for the party. It was so well organised. It was brilliant. So we got changed into our party outfits, headed back out, and everybody else started arriving. It was a brilliant night. They booked a singer called Keith, who is local to them and they know very well. He was brilliant, just playing songs with his guitar and a backing track pretty much all evening from about 7 p.m. till when the party wrapped up at about 1 a.m. Managed to catch up with so many people who I've not seen for a while. I did risk a couple of bottles of gluten-free Peroni beer. So I did try an alcohol experiment again to see how it affected the headache. It didn't make it any better, but it didn't make it any worse. And I did just stick to the 2 bottles in between lots of appetizers because I appear to have quite the thing for apple juice at the moment, so it seems. Just before the party ended, my mate's 9-year-old daughter was getting everybody on the dance floor, and you cannot refuse. She is a lovely girl, and it was impossible to say no when she asked you to go dancing. So we were all on the dance floor dancing away. She was trying to convince her older brother to come and dance with us, and at that point he was not having any of it. He was chatting, drinking with his mates, which is perfectly fair enough. Then he finished his drink, he wandered over to the dance floor and he started dancing, but she was looking the other way. So I just tapped her on her shoulder just to point out that her brother was on the dance floor and throwing some shapes with all of us. And immediately a massive, great, huge smile came on her face and she was so happy. It was a beautiful moment, thoroughly enjoyed it. He is a fantastic lad, by the way. Really good boy. I've known him since he was tiny, obviously. I've even walked him to school with his mum once, played cricket and football with him while his parents were busy, and he's grown into an excellent young man. It was great that he joined us all and we had a good old dance to round off the night. Fantastic party. And then, of course, we were all staying as well. So we headed off to bed, got some sleep, and then we all met up for breakfast as well. So you could have that post-party catch up. And this mate of mine, I've known since our very first day at primary school. We've known each other since we were 4 years old. That's 43 years and counting. And he is just such an amazing bloke as well. So that was just so nice to spend a weekend with them. Then once we'd had breakfast, we headed home. It was my turn to do the driving, so Linda let me hop in her car and I drove us home. It's an electric car, so we didn't have to stop to charge up on the way home. The traffic was quite heavy going back and there were some 15-mile-an-hour speed restrictions. I have never had a car that had cruise control. Hers did, so she encouraged me to try it during the speed restricted parts of the journey. At first, I found it very weird, and I'm not sure I really liked it. But as I got a bit more used to it, I was quite enjoying the cruise control. But it just makes you think, what am I really doing here? You're only there to steer. The car's taking care of everything else. The journey passed without any incident, and I quite enjoyed it, to be fair, even though it was quite a long drive because the traffic was quite bad. And then when we got back, we just chilled, relaxed, had some food, and tried to recover from what was quite a spectacular party. I am still having my acupuncture sessions to try and help my headaches. I must say, after the last one, my headaches did feel quite a bit better almost the next day. It's very complicated, seemingly, the process, and the therapist needs to kind of work out exactly what's going on with my body and work out the best places to put the pins to treat me and do what she needs to do. I think she's getting there. I think we're cracking it. I've got another session booked in a few weeks and I'm very much looking forward to it. If I can get to the stage where I could be headache free for the first time in over 14 months, that will be absolutely amazing. The Premier League football season is approaching, and today I'm off to see Tottenham Hotspur play in their final friendly match at home against Bayern Munich. What is going to be quite weird about this game possibly is Harry Kane could be there playing at the stadium that he spent many years at, but against Tottenham, which would be really weird seeing Harry play there but not in a Spurs shirt and playing against us. I'm looking forward to seeing some of our new signings and some of the new players that have come through, and of course seeing all the players that have been on international duty. Optimistic at this point of the season. Hopefully we can get a good start when we play Leicester on the opening weekend of the Premier League season. At this point, there's still a chance Spurs could win a trophy, you know. Just a reminder that you can hear my radio show Saturday afternoons between 2 and 4 at radio9springs.com. That's it from me for now. Thanks for listening. Take care. Look after yourselves and each other, please. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.